Welcome to today's podcast. This is Speak on Stage, and it's a LinkedIn Live audio version. We're doing it on a Friday because Sunday I'm busy speaking on stages, and that's the only time, apart from when I'm traveling, that we move the dates of doing it. So here we're going to be talking about this question: what do you do when AI comes for your job? Now, this might seem like it's a little bit extremist. What, Dave? No chance. My job's perfectly safe. Might not be safe, and it might be going faster than you know it. The IMF has said, and I don't mean Mission Impossible Fund, IMF, International Monetary Fund, has said that 40% of jobs will disappear in the next 2 years. At least they're under danger. And a lot of these jobs are ones that are held by women and people of diversity. Why? Because they're not as skilled or specialist. So they tend to be ones that people give away to other people like me. So there's a very big crisis that's coming. It's a huge tsunami, as described by me months ago, and now the IMF is saying the same thing. So when I ask a question, what to do when AI comes for your job, I mean it with all seriousness. Let's find out what everybody else thinks. This is recorded live and broadcasting at the same time on LinkedIn. This is Speak on Stage. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live audio. As always, it's a pleasure to have you, and it makes a big difference that you break up your Friday to pop in and say hi of some description. I have no idea how many people we're going to get joining us on today's session. I have no idea who we're going to get. We normally do it on a Sunday. So normally we get 20, 30 people pop in, share their ideas. Some jump on stages, some stare and make notes. Good to see you, Colin, by the way. And we have no idea where this is going to go. But we have got some serious subjects to cover. And there's things that I've been talking about for quite some time that are running faster and faster towards some kind of conclusion. AI is not going to go away under any circumstances. Some of us wish it would, but it's just not going to. So we have to find a world that accommodates it and be able to deal with that. And what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of differences to a lot of people who were thinking, oh, it's just a fad, as many people do. It's like climate change. Let's just ignore it and I'm sure we'll be fine. Well, only because it hasn't affected you. Oh, big storm. Yeah, big storm. Where did that come from? Climate change. No, it's too obvious. Well, the thing about when we start talking about AI is the evolution of AI is the one that really excites me. If you think about it, I remember with our Game Changers audience, which is our global community for mindset and personal development, which I created after the pandemic. With our group in the Game Changers, I introduced to them ChatGPT about a week and a half after it went live. And hardly anybody was talking about it. Sure, the press were jumping on it and saying, wow, this is a future. And I realized it's something very special. So I signed up, shared it with my community, and did a crash course on what you could do with prompt engineering, which at the time I found very exciting because my background is in communication skills. And as a hypnotherapist and as a broadcaster and as a life coach, a lot of the things that you'd say to people, excuse me, allergies to my own dogs. Can you believe that? But there you go. A lot of things you'd say to people to help them to deal with stop smoking, lose weight, or feel differently about themselves are the similar things that you'd put into, or at least the process is very similar to what you put into commanding or prompting AI to raise its game or work with you on a certain subject. Now, I'm not a coder, so I don't do any of the coding stuff, but the stuff that's pretty standard, which is putting together proposals, writing documents, making videos, making pictures and putting it all together. That stuff I use to speed up. But I realized that the game is changing so much faster when those smart people take the coding prospects and they put it into machines. And those machines are now being utilized, and our friends like Elon Musk, for instance, doing an incredible job of making home robots. Now, if you were to say this to people 10 years ago, they'd say, oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen, but not for a while. Well, it's happening right now, ladies and gents. And so where does that leave us with everything else? I'm joined on our panel by my wife Aziza. Debbie's not joining us at this moment in time. Jeff Price may join us, but the idea is this is a brainstorming session, and it's also a bit of a clinic in the fact that we can share ideas and come up with structure and come up with some stuff. If nothing else, I mean, these groups often turn into a group hug, if anything, just purely because we all need to know that we can unleash what we're thinking to other people who kind of get the same kind of thing. There's an article that I shared with our Turbocharge Your Career group. And by the way, if you've not come across me before, I'm Dave Crane. Nice to see you, or at least to hear what we're saying. We do record these sessions to put on YouTube for anybody who misses it, because we normally get some very, very useful comments and content out of it. But in our Game Changers community and in our Turbo community, which is on WhatsApp, we've been talking about this for quite some time. I shared a article this morning, which was one from Forbes, where they said, how do you proof yourself against AI? 3 skills you need to have. And these are the 3 skills that I've been talking about for years as the most important things you need to have when everything else is changing around you. And I learned it during the pandemic. Here's the 3. First one is this: problem solving. You need to be able to deal with the challenges of what the world is going to throw at you, think out of the box, come up with structure, a roadmap, connections, and also a timetable to be able to make those things change. And also be able to adapt and pivot in real time, because nothing ever goes as planned. You may get halfway through your roadmap to find that the game has changed from underneath your feet and you've got to change. Being a problem solver helps that. Second thing is personal branding. Why is personal branding so important? Well, because it's kind of gonna hijack a lot of what the workplace is going to be like. The workplace is pretty weird right now anyway. Lots of people working from home, and if you can work from home, you don't even have to be in the same country, and you might never see face to face your colleagues or your boss or your staff or decision makers in your organization. So that makes it very interesting. But personal branding means that you stand out. People can find you and people can see whether you're worth being connected to. Your personal brand also means that you have a voice. You can share with people your thoughts on any given subject. Now, you may want to stay within your lane, and your subject might just be about what you do for a living. But by talking about it and growing that brand, you get seen as one of the best practitioners, of the most accessible practitioners of your niche, and people will find you and want to employ you. And the third thing is communication skills. For me, public speaking is one of the most important of them, but it also involves a lot of different areas of public speaking. So communication could be what you type. It could be what you do on podcast. It could be your omni-channel of what you put across social media. It could be what you put into a book or into PDFs. Or it could be the community that you run and how you instruct and help them. In some cases, it could be you run a cult. I won't point the fingers at American politics, but what I can say is there's a lot of changes out there that all 3 of these skills allow you to be in without having to be necessarily putting all your eggs in the same basket. A couple of years ago, it was that you should be a coder. I remember my daughter, she's 13 now, when she first started in her senior school, people were saying to her, oh yeah, but you got to do coding. And I was saying, why? Why bother? AI will take the coding away from you. And I could see that when the amount of people stopped making websites and started using cut and paste solutions to make websites much faster. Well, now you don't even have to do that. You can instruct your AI, of which is many, who will build a website for you and then just tweak what you need to have in it. So the coding was not so important. The core skills, or what was the phrase I read the other day, durable skills, is the most important thing that you can have, because all the rest of it will fall into place. And durable skills might even mean that you can swap between industries. But if you can do them within your industry, it means you are better respected, and it does mean that you're positioned much better to be able to enjoy the benefits of full employment and working with people. So with that being said, I'm going to invite everybody in the audience right now to do 2 things. First of all, would it be possible for you to share that we're going live? In fact, now I think about it, I didn't really post that. I'm going to go now, and there's a share button which you can click on, and it allows you to repost to your feed. And that's all you need to do to let people know that you are within this broadcast, and hopefully that's going to bring a few more people in. We never know on a Friday what's going to happen because we don't normally do it on a Friday. And many people are at work and they don't like to join in and talk. They just like to hear what's going on and observe, which is always fun as well. So if you could do that, that'd be amazing. The second thing after that is I'd like to invite you to come and join me on stage. If you have a thought on AI, if you work in AI, or even if you're worried about what's going to happen next, maybe you have some preconceived ideas, maybe you've got some insights that we don't know about, I'd love to find out. To do that, all you have to do on your app, whether you're doing it on your laptop or you're doing it on your phone, is there's a button that you can press to ask to be brought up on stage. Press that button and I'll invite you on to share your thoughts with us. We only go live for an hour, which means that I've been blathering on for about 8 minutes or so. We will be stopping with a dead stop, he said, every single week. It's never a dead stop, but sometimes it is, at 2 o'clock UAE, which is actually 50 minutes from now. So what we usually invite people to do on stage is to go on and say a few things, but not to go on too long and do, a monologue. Just introduce yourself. We can see who you are by looking through your profile on LinkedIn, which should be optimized anyway, but get straight into it. The more time we can spend brainstorming and chatting, the more effective this session will be, and the more it's going to affect and help other people too. So would anybody like to join me on stage and share your thoughts? I mean, if you're worried about AI in your career, share with us what your career is. I mean, I work with people on this basis and have done for quite a long time. I have a thing called the VIP mentoring program, which is on special offer over the summer months because I realize how many people are going to be in a position where they're really scared and they need to reskill and they need to create side hustles or they need to start some kind of project that positions them more effectively than they've ever been before. And the hardest thing is, when you turn around at work and say, I want to really raise my game, the employers that you work with are very unlikely to say, oh, well, great, we'll help you do that, because they want to keep you in that job. But it's kind of every man and woman for themselves. So it's changing quite rapidly. Are you embracing AI in your career? Are you hiding from AI? Are you worrying about it? Can you see over the horizon that things will change? For many people, especially if you're a knowledge worker, if you're being paid for your expertise that comes from tons of studying and tons of experience, then in many cases you will be most at threat because of the fact that your expertise is something that you can learn. But if your expertise is only from being in the field and people who study get it all wrong because you really need to be out there to understand what happens next, then the odds are you'll do very well. AI is not very good at being able to distinguish between human reactions to things that go on. Let me give you an example. And by the way, if you'd like to join me on stage, just put your hand up. Otherwise, I'll be talking for an hour. And that's boring for everybody apart from me because my ego is quite clearly so massive. I can carry on talking forever. But if you go into a shop and you go to buy something from somebody, the person on the other end of the counter watches you walk in, checks your body language, gets to see if it's congruent. So are you going to steal something? Are you going to buy something? They're looking at what you're going to buy, what you're not going to buy. And eventually when you get to the counter and you have something to hand over, they know what the process is. But they can also see if you're in discomfort. They can also see if you've got challenges. They can also understand, and sometimes they prompt it and say, well, you're looking for something else. In which case your body language and your face will probably give away the fact that, yeah, actually, do you have this or anything else? These are the kind of things that robots and AI are not in a position to fix yet. And even when they do, these are people skills. These are things that you naturally will be able to put together, this plus that plus this plus body language plus tone of voice, plus the fact that their accent is a bit strange, so they're from overseas, so maybe they're looking for something and they don't know what the word for it is. All these factors come together, which makes humans really important, but only in certain jobs, and that's where the challenge will be. Once again, I'd like to know if you're comfortable with AI, and you're really happy with where it's going, then please share that as well. Because I guarantee that for everybody in the audience, there'll be certain parts of that which will really translate to their industry as well, and might provide a lifeline if they're feeling a little bit scared about what happens next. Now, one of the big fears that I have is that we are not being governed by people who have our best interests at heart. I'm not talking about government specifically. I'm talking about the fact that AI is driven by industries, and industries are driven by entrepreneurs. People are capitalists. I have no problem with people making money or capitalism, but I just feel that over the last few years, we've seen less going to most people and more going to a small group of people. And what we just asked to do is take this to a whole new level of those who have will get more. And it's very rare that you find that one of the byproducts of this is a lot more jobs being made for everybody. Now, I know there will be a lot more jobs being made for everybody, but you also have a lag time during which many people will not be able to work. They will find their job has disappeared. They will find it's more difficult to be positioned to be able to do stuff. So if you've got thoughts on that, I'd love to know. Throwing it open to Cole and to Costas and Joanne and Prince. If you'd like to join us on stage and stick your hand up, I'd love to know your thoughts. Otherwise, this is 13 minutes of monologue from myself. And I think that's a bit of a challenge for anybody to listen to, but I'm more than happy to take up a challenge. But I'd love to know your thoughts as well, because I have my voice in my head all the time. And sometimes it's nice to add a little bit extra. Joanne, thank you for rescuing me. Just a quick one. If you love what I do and want to work with me, go to the VIP mentoring site and get yourself registered. Whatever it is you want to do, this is a QR code, or go to www.speakonstage.com/summervip/ all the details are there. I'm waiting for you. One-to-one exclusive sessions to build your signature product. What is it? Find out. Take a look. Work with you soon. That's it. Back to the podcast. And please come on stage. I know that you use AI in what you do, or at least just starting to. I find that fascinating as well. So how are you, Joanne, in lovely Ireland as well?
Hey, good morning, Dave. Hi, Aziza. Great. It's raining. Well, it's a little bit damp, but who cares? It's a nice day. I'm going to have a good day. It's Friday.
Any day we wake up and get out of bed, it's a good day.
Absolutely. 100%. Absolutely. We need to have a purpose and a reason to get up out of bed. And that's what life is all about, isn't it?
It is. Oh, even staying in bed sometimes is good. I remember when I didn't have work years ago, when I was after I'd been a student, I didn't get a job, and so my whole world was around watching Neighbours and staying in bed as long as I possibly could. But that changed now. I can't stand sleeping. I can't stay in bed, and I shouldn't say that to you as a sleep success coach, because you're going to tell me how important it is to not do it. Okay, so here's a question for you. How has AI affected, or how can AI affect your particular industry, which is about helping people to sleep?
Yeah, it's a really great question, because look, AI is moving really, really fast. And the one thing that really stands out for me, and in terms of sleep as well, and for entrepreneurs and coaches and professionals, is AI is moving so fast. And I've just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, personal branding. What you said about personal branding. I was reading your article, really, really good. I highly recommend people read your article. But personal branding, and really, like, that's a business word that we use when we say branding. But personal branding is, what people say about you when you leave the room, like you say, Dave. And it's all about how we're being. So whether it's in business or life, how we're being, how we show up in life is how people relate to us. It's our energy, our vibration, or we could call it just simply our mood, right? And sleep and a well-rested person will enable you to show up at your best, which will effectively affect your brand and our human spirit. And AI cannot take away our human spirit. AI doesn't have a human spirit, so that's something that we have, and I'm very clear that that's something AI will never have and never possess. So therefore, looking after how we're being, how we're showing up in life by being well rested and sleeping well is crucial for our personal branding.
I love that. It really leans into our human skills, our durable skills, our ability to read and connect with people. I mean, before AI came along, and remember, this is only about 18 months or so old. Well, it's not, it's been around for a very long time, but it's been available the way it is only about 18 months or so. Previous to that, I've worked with lots of people all around the world. We all have. And some people are lovely and some people are absolutely horrible. And the skills that we're talking about are not going to stop them from being horrible people, but at least you'll understand what's going on, and at least you'll understand better what the game is that's being played in front of you. Some people have no agenda whatsoever, and many people don't have an agenda, but they're naturally grumpy and really hard to work with because they've got a lot of challenges of their own going. So I completely understand the need to optimize your ability to connect with the outside world. I feel though, and this is something for you, Joanne, and again, everybody in the group, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And Jeff Price has just joined us as well, which means that he will to say lots. I don't know whether this is going to bring out a better side to human beings or a worse side. The reason I say that is because when people start losing jobs, of which there will be many, they get desperate. They don't get let's hug together. If you look at the biggest challenge that we had in our lives, which was a pandemic, where globally the world was in lockdown for the best part of 2 years. The first 2 or so months, everybody worried about their neighbors. I mean, as everyone started going back to work, it was, I'm all right, Jack. I don't care about anybody else. I think that's built into human nature. And so I kind of worry that that's what's going to take over a lot when some people do well in jobs and some people don't. They won't lend out an arm to help others. They'll just crack on with what they do.
Yeah, and that's the nature of human beings. And we have this default mode network where we automatically lean into the negative side. And nature did that on purpose, how we've evolved to have us be prepared for the what if scenarios, if something happens, when if there's a problem arises or a threat or whatever. So something that I'm really, really looking at very deeply now at the moment with everything that's going on in the world, right? Because there's so much moving, so much happening, and so many fears out there with media and what have you, is we tend to look at our problems, right? We tend to look at our problems and focus on them with a coming from them. We have to fix our problems, right? How can I fix my problem? And by doing that very process, we're activating all the other problems that are associated with this one problem and looking for evidence and what have you. This is part of the default node network, whatever, right, in the brain, how we lean into this. But here's the thing: if we focus on the solution, and I know it's not easy, right, but it's just something to be conscious of. If we focus on the solution or what the solution would look like, how it would feel, we're living into our future then. And I'll give you an example. Anybody here going on holidays, right? If anyone's going on holidays, you get your bags packed, you're really excited to go, you're in great mood, right? It's something that you're looking forward to, right? And that's all that's there. That's how you're being. But on the last day of your holiday, you're dreading coming back home. So you're in a bad mood because tomorrow you're going back home, you're getting on that flight. So it's about the future that we're living into, what we're focusing on. So if we're focusing on something pleasant and what the solution is, and look, there's loads of tools and practices, but it's just something to be conscious of and that we can practice. And that way then we'll prime our brain and increase those neural activities and all of that kind of stuff. You know all that, Dave. So I think you get where I'm coming from, I hope.
Yeah, I do. And I think that part of the answer to that process that you just talked about, and you're absolutely right, people go on vacation and they don't want to come back. But what if your life is on a vacation? What if what you do you love and you never get bored? And when you go on vacation, you just do less of it, but maybe you do a little bit with what you offer. So, for instance, we're planning to take a break in the summer. We're going to come to the UK and visit family and friends and do some stuff like that. During that time, I'll still be doing these broadcasts. I'll just go into a coffee shop and annoy everybody, or I'll just get a place where there's internet and quiet, or I'll do it from my phone in the middle of the street. I'm not bothered, but I'll still keep going, so it won't really challenge me as to what I do, because in my opinion, I'm doing the perfect job. I'm doing what I love. There's no way on earth I'd want to change it to be something completely different, because then I'm in the wrong position. I've done plenty of jobs I hated, and I think that what this does is it's going to force many people, not everybody, because some people just take the money, but there'll be a lot of people who will have to ask that question: what do I really want to do? And so if they've worked that out, there's going to be less of, oh my goodness, I'm dreading going back to work, and more, my work is me. It comes with me everywhere I go. Maybe you jump online, maybe you go in a coffee shop, maybe you do projects rather than have to attend work all day, every day. I think it's going to really shake up the job market. And I think the people who are going to suffer initially, most of all, are going to be with the jobs that can be replaced fastest. And I've heard that that is about 40% worldwide. A lot of them will go to women, and a lot of them will go to people of color who will lose their jobs faster, but also people over 50. When I say people of color, I don't mean that they pick on people or robots have a problem with that. I just mean that many of the jobs that will disappear predominantly are amongst that demographic. But anybody over 50 will lose a lot because the brand new Chat GPT 4.0, which came out this week, is the quality of a senior manager in an organization. You give that some questions and it'll come up with senior manager level answers. That's a dreading thing that many people who've been in a job for 20, 30 years have been worried about, and it's here now. So they will have to reinvent themselves to do something they really love, and there's a better chance of them loving what they do on a daily basis. So if they can survive and thrive, then they'll actually be a lot happier in their job market for the future. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%, Dave. Absolutely. And, it comes down to what it is that we value in life, and what's important to us. This is our purpose. Going back to our why, that question, why am I here on this planet? And everybody has a purpose. So when we tap into that, and we embody it and align with it, we can be more confident and have more self-worth and all of this. And we're more attractive. We're more attractive to whatever it is, whatever job or whatever that we want to look. And it takes a bit of work as well. But I hear what you're saying. It's absolutely very true, especially the over 50s as well. But there is a lot we can do, I think.
Yeah, I think there is. I think that what we've seen as well from the pandemic is a lot of a growing industry in well-being, which we never had before. I studied to be a life coach, and I worked for many years as a hypnotherapist and life coach. And what you tended to work with is people who had real burnout or they needed to raise their game. But most people didn't see life coaches as something that they wanted to pay for. They didn't want to pay for happiness. They just go shopping, they drink heavily, or buy some shoes or a bag or whatever to get their hair done. Or in the case of what guys say to each other, and they're the worst guys to help each other. Oh, get over it. Let's go and have a drink. That's therapy for guys. But I think that it's kind of understood now that maybe there are issues in the workplace. It's in their interest to make sure they work it out with you and maybe give you support and maybe create an environment that makes people feel more comfortable. That never happened before. It was always a case of, oh, this person's got issues. How quickly can we fix it or replace them? So we have got a real change. There's lots of things like, for instance, good and bad. The way that people date nowadays is good, the fact that we're very aware that there are predators, but very bad because people don't want to make themselves in a position where they can be rejected, or also that they could be in a situation where other people can reject them easily because they've stuck their head up. It's easier if you don't. So that way you don't meet people. But there's lots of things like that which are kind of altering, and we have to find our way to be able to move forward. AI in the workplace is a major part of that because the bottom line is, how do I pay for my livelihood and my family? And that's been a really big challenge since computers came in. I think in many ways it's changed dramatically with Zoom and the pandemic, but this is a time when it all gets mopped up because everyone's job description will alter, but it should include themselves plus AI. When you go for a job interview, it should be you, and you should have an AI part of your CV to say the skills that you bring with you when you come to that new job. If you don't think about it, then you've already lost the game because the employers will be thinking about it. And the minute that becomes a thing, it will just be a thing for everybody. Joanne,
Yeah, and what you said as well there. I was just thinking, we don't know what we don't know, and most people have a past experience that's stopping them, that's setting up their beliefs, their thoughts, and their beliefs, which is stopping them from getting into action, right? And how they behave and their daily actions. And that's why I think it's really important to have a mentor or a coach to work with them, because you were talking about spending money on shoes and bags and all this sort of thing, right? But I think our own self-development and showing up as our best selves, we really need mentors and coaches to help us with that, because we're too close to our own stuff. We can't see objectively our own stuff and our own blocks, and somebody from the outside can see you like the helicopter view. And that's why it's really important to work with someone like yourself, Dave, or any coach or whatever, because it will really help you to get rid of that block, whatever it is. And we all have them. Look, even I have them, and I need coaches and mentors, right? So I think that's a really important point.
thank you. It's absolutely true. When you think about I mean, I'm a big fan of football. as in soccer. And when you look at the role of a manager used to be a guy who shouted at everybody and just basically made sure there was a team listings for everyone to turn up. A manager now is a coach, and their job is to know NLP, neuro linguistic programming, to bring the best out of everybody. It's not even being a great footballer. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson, who was one of the most successful managers of all time at Manchester United, yes, he was a very successful footballer, so he knew the industry, but he never got involved in the training. He just didn't do that. He had teams who worked underneath him who would do the day-to-day training and the exercises and the free kicks and all the rest of it. His job was to manage the mindset of his team, and that's what he excelled in, and that's why they did so well at that time. And I think for modern managers, that's certainly what happens. So there's a real changing of the guard and a change of the way that people discuss how they should move forward. I worry about 50-year-olds. I'll tell you why I worry about them, because they're expensive. Now, that sounds a terrible thing to say, but because they're so well learned and experienced, they've normally got a family of some description, or they've got a mortgage, or they've got, medical bills that they need to be paying more insurance for, and organizations will happily replace them. And we've always been told or sold the lie, if you carry on working, then you should be okay until you retire. Now, retirement means nothing now. Retiring at 65, retiring at 70, some of the most productive people that we can think of that we love and admire are well beyond that. Some of the best actors I'd happily go and see are Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, or any of the best practitioners of what they do. Those guys are into their 80s. Okay, maybe not in sports so much, but you don't necessarily need to run about to be a mentor or be exceptional at what you do. I don't think the world's geared for the 2 billion or so over 50s who are now going to find themselves the same place they were when they got qualified as an undergraduate and went out to try and go to the job market. The job market's going to be really difficult, but that's why, as I say, with my VIP mentoring and we've been talking about getting a mentor or a coach, now is the time while you have a job to reskill and to make sure that you have a lifeboat to jump into, even if it brings in, a third of what you normally earn. That third you can expand and grow to being a full-time job doing what you love. But you have to do it now before the tsunami hits and wipes out your industry. Thoughts?
Oh, you're still talking to me, Dave. Great, I'm getting loads of stage time here.
Jeff's just joined us. Jeff has been very quiet.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Jeff Price. Sorry, Jeff Bartholomew. You've got a name because you've got a...
Hello.
You've got
hello. Yeah, I'm actually going back to Jeff Price after this.
Well, can you explain why you've changed it, Jeff, or is that top secret and I have to keep it under my hat because I know?
Well, it's kind of top secret, and I'm going to have to go back to Price for that reason. So, I need to remove the Bartholomew. Hi everyone, it's great to be with you. I'm sorry I've missed you for weeks. This is a fantastic conversation, and one that is so important and so relevant to all of us. Dave, I was talking with a chap yesterday who is from Jamaica, and is a cousin of Bob Marley. Oh. And he was sharing some of his ideas for new ventures, and he mentioned that he is constantly, what's the word? What you've done so well, when you change up and you
pivoting, reskilling, reinventing.
Reinventing. Thank you, Dave. Reinventing. He mentioned he was reinventing himself, and instantly I had your face right there, and that really sort of motivated my conversation with him. So
wow, he probably looked like me.
Yeah. Well, who knows? We could be jamming soon.
There you go. I knew the DJ would come out at some point. So we can't. I was thinking, actually, just on a sidebar, I was watching I was watching a trailer for the new Henry Cavill movie, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is the beginnings of James Bond, but the real story from the Second World War. And I just found it fascinating. Sidebar, anyway, that's just a conversation between me and you. But going back to the subject we have here about AI, how do you see AI working in the workplace? Do you think that people should be scared and be very scared? Or do you think it's just a case of just embrace it and should be fine?
It's such a minefield, Dave. I mean, I know that there are so many people who are genuinely scared. And this particular chap I was talking to yesterday, he he comes from a really sort of hands-on background in terms of his work that he's done. He was working with fishermen in Jamaica and buying trawlers and all kinds of stuff. So his work was really, roll your sleeves up and physically getting stuck in. From a sort of IT perspective, he's really struggling. But he's really open to education and learning the new ways. But there are so many people who, I think, I think the media's got a lot to answer for when it comes to fear mongering, when it comes to this AI. I know in different parts of the world the conversations vary, but it is mentioned quite a lot that AI is taking jobs, and then the media has found themselves having to redact that and take it back and say, hold on a second, we're going to reshape the conversation and try and encourage people. If you want to succeed, in the years ahead, I think and from an entrepreneurial perspective, you have really no choice but to really engage in it and learn from those who know. Do you know what I mean?
Completely. I think you can read life back. Throwing up on this. I watched a documentary yesterday all about ABBA. I was a huge ABBA fan with all my days as a DJ and so on. I still love the stuff that they have, and nobody's allowed to laugh when I say it. But when ABBA did the Eurovision Song Contest, the Swedish one in 1974, they were rejected by all the Swedish music press because they wanted to have people making folk music, and in fact, there's a massive backlash against them. They never conquered. They never conquered America. They tried really hard in the end, and they split as they became ABBA. So for the first couple of years, they were two couples, one engaged, one married. Then the married couple split and carried on, and then the other couple got married and then split. So even years later, when I think they had their final album out before the gap of about 40 years, about 1980, I think it was that the Tupa Trooper came out or something. But most of their time, they were kind of laughed off as being twee, but they were clearly the most popular group on the planet, and they were for many years. In reflection, when you see the interviews with them, they're really quiet people. Now, why do I bring this up as a conversation, apart from the fact I wanted to name drop ABBA? Well, because when you're in the center of something, it seems very different when you look back at it in time. You and I worked in radio together for many years, and one of the things that was the most turbulent of all the experiences we had was whenever we got a new station manager who would come in and change everything in front of us, sack people, bring in their own people, and then that's what we'd have to deal with. So we kind of got used to it. At any point, it could be the end. But you and I lasted longer than most people, and when we finally stopped doing it, it was by choice. I think AI will have a similar impact, and people will reflect on it the same kind of way. What's your thoughts?
Well, I also remember, Dave, in our day that this thing called the internet was coming at the music industry, and we were working a lot with the record labels, and they refused to recognize this phenomena that was heading our way. And years later, this quote from Richard Branson just really resonates. His biggest regret in his career to date is the music industry refusing to embrace the internet. And look at the way that the music industry has changed massively, and the impact that it's had on artists. They have to really, really work for their money now. Back in the old days, there was a tangible, you could see money coming in from record sales. But now there are downloads, and I remember lecturing at university, radio and sound, and I would ask my class, how many of the students here pay for their music? And not a single one had ever purchased a song. They'd all downloaded for free. So these artists are having to go out and they have to perform, and it's ticket sales that generates their revenue. But in the old days, it was us going out to support the artists by buying their material. So it's changed massively. And I think that quote from Richard Branson, he just wished that the industry had woken up to what was coming. And I think we're there now. And I think with AI, it's probably 100 times, if not more, of a threat, if you like, than back in those days when, you know, the shift from purchasing and you know, a tangible result for an artist to now, you know, the download phenomena.
Well,
You know, you can download movies, you can download everything you can get, just typing a few letters to a few words on a screen.
I love the analogy, and I've got my own thoughts on that. I'm going to share it with you because I think it's important to look at it. So, Richard Branson, who we're both great admirers of and you've worked with, is a pioneer in thinking and producing products. I think his lament is about the fact that the music industry lost its control over artists because they didn't move over time. Because there are still lots of artists around the world, and music is still being made. But what's so different is in the old day, you had A&R men who would go out looking for new artists. If you were on their radar, they could choose to do what they wanted with you, casting couch included. You'd have to then justify how good you are. If they liked you, which is a very small percentage, they would give you an advance on your industry. So you could then get that album cut, you could get the marketing put into it, you go on a small tour or maybe a bigger tour, and then you'd have to pay it all back from album sales. Now here's where it got really tricky, because what would happen was ultimately you'd have your album and it'd go out and usually do quite well, but your second album was the biggest problem because you'd had maybe 5 years of being with your band, putting together your best songs ever for your first album, which hit big. Second album, you had 6 months to come up with something better. And it's very rare. I can't think of a single artist where their second album was better than their first. So then they went on tour with less people, less interest, less money, but they had a big bill to pay off. So by the time it came to a third album, it was make or break. And many artists not only split because of the lack of success of the second album, but also the debts were massive because during all that time, they're not living like kings. They're living like people who owe money to the bank. And when they split, a lot of it is pressure that's created because of the fact that they owe money and they fall out with each other and they're not doing what they love anymore. They're doing what they didn't want to do, which is have a proper job. And so many artists never made it past the third album, which explains a lot about why now we've got resurgence of 80s artists going on tour. And they only have about 5 songs because they had the first album, which gave us about three songs, then maybe one that came afterwards that was kind of okay, and one that nobody else remembers. But what we've got now is the ability for you to create your own audience on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. You can go on tour of just coffee shops if you want to. You don't have to bring out an album. You can just have people like your downloads. But what you do have to do is create a world around you where people are interested in what you bring to the table. And the best practitioner by far of that is Taylor Swift, who not only has created this incredible world around, she's a very talented woman, has made incredible success from the money that she's made, but also she was very capable of leading a worldwide phenomenon that people love who she is, what she says, how she thinks, and she has the power to almost bring a president into voting at a higher level because she endorses them. Now, I'm not saying everyone's going to be Taylor Swift, but I think that what this has done it's moved people back into their own skills. You're not reliant on somebody to notice you, and I think that's what's going to happen to the workplace. AI allows you to publish your own books. It allows you to fast track having a team. If you can get ChatGPT 4.0 to create your own senior managers for your own company where you're the only human, and they're getting a lot of noise, by the way, Jeff. Is that your getting a lot? Let me. That's better because I think you'll get some noise from there. You can unmute yourself when you're ready. But when it comes around to it, I think AI is going to make it much easier for those people who have got transferable skills to optimize, to step up, to create a brand new version of themselves and not need that casting couch or even the blessings of an organization to let them go out and trade in the market. Now, Colm has just joined us. Good to see you, Colm McQueen. Has been sitting patiently. I could tell he wanted to say something. So, Colm, if you unmute yourself, what are your thoughts on the conversation we've been having?
Yeah, that's all very relevant, and thanks very much for the enlightening conversation. And all these points are resonating with me because, I think that AI has advantages, and well, there are things to fear and things to be hopeful for, and we've talked a lot about the fears, but reinventing oneself and being able to become autonomous thanks to AI, and really leverage it to find our own passion, or to work in ways that are suitable for our lifestyle, and find our own kind of calling in the entrepreneurial sphere, are things that AI can really enable and accelerate. Like you said, it's possible to set up a whole managerial structure using AI assistants. AI advisors can give you direction on sales, marketing. It can be your virtual assistant. So there are a lot of possible ways of utilizing it in our work. But we also have to take into account the like you said at the start, there's a lot of denial about climate change, but when it comes to AI, people don't realize that the massive environmental impact that it has today, with the massive energy consumption, and the use of water and resources. So it's taking up a massive massive resources, and we need to see how to utilize it in a responsible way. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. But in my own work, so I'm a freelance translator, and a lot of translators have been approaching AI with some trepidation and fear. But I think that being aware of the capability of AI and how it can be integrated, and what use cases there are for our work, can lead us down the right path.
I agree. Can I just jump in, Cole? Because I was going to say something, which is, if somebody came to me with my VIP mentoring, like yourself, and said, "Dave, I'm a translator. I'm worried about AI because it can do the job I do," I would say, let's take the analogy for my wife, for instance, who was an award-winning wedding photographer. You wouldn't go to your own wedding and rely on everybody who's got a camera to give you the final shots of your wedding that you can look at for years. You'd still invest in somebody who's a professional to be able to turn around and say, "Here's your portfolio, here's your gallery, here's the big shots that you wanted." For even though everyone can do videos and we can do pictures and capture it in perfect precision, you'll still invest. So I think as somebody who's a translator, I think AI really allows you to do more because I don't know which languages you speak, Colm. Could you share which ones you do?
I personally speak a few languages, European languages, German, French, Spanish, Dutch. I also speak Scottish Gaelic. So yeah, you're right that it's still valuable. There's still a place for human translators who are experts in their field and
So,
can
sorry to
deliver.
interrupt you, Colm. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to finish off what I was saying to get your feedback on it afterwards. So, as an expert in languages, I know Jeff Price is an expert in languages as well. What I would say is, you now don't think about yourself as a translator. You now think of yourself as a translation business. So you know how to look after somebody who needs to have a translator on point, but also a translator who needs to be there at their side when they're doing legal documents or in a online call. You can now use AI to translate the process of any language live for your customers, but how they turn up, what it gets used for, and the ways that you would stand like a lawyer next to somebody and say, do it this way. Literal translation is this, which means that, but I think you should be looking for something that says this. You're able to now extend your skill set to almost any language on the planet because the translation is there for you to add. So that means that you can bring people under you to do the same kind of thing. You create like a human app almost of the ability to be a translator rather than just the actual translations. Does that make sense, Colm?
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, that's what I'm moving into, consultancy and forming an agency, sort of agency tech company in translation. Yeah, extending services is something I'm definitely looking at, and I want to facilitate communication and help people make an impact and really find the right words for their specific use cases. And in many use cases, human translation, human involvement, or editing of translation, and copywriting, which is another skill I'm looking to offer, are the way to go.
Definitely. I'm fascinated by that, and I'm sure that you'll do brilliantly at it. One of the things I'll say to everybody, first of all, we've got 10 minutes left, so anybody wants to jump on stage and join us for a couple of quick questions or their thoughts, or even throw it to our esteemed panel to get their opinion on it, please feel free to do. We do have a dead stop in about 10 minutes. But also, I think that one of the biggest challenges for most people is that they can now dream bigger than they've ever done before, and they've never been trained to do that. When we're at school, we're never taught to run a business. We're taught how to learn skills that maybe will make us employable later on. It was only later on that you start going, you know what, I hate this, I want to run my own business. Or I learned at business school that everything I was taught was rubbish. I think what it gives us is an opportunity, like you've just shared, Colm, about the fact that you can now turn around and say, I can be bigger. I don't need to just be a translator. I can have a translation agency that leans into lots of things. In fact, what I would do is I'd look at the whole thing, build it bigger, but focus on one particular area. Are you looking at doing it in medicine? Are you looking at doing it in law? Are you doing it in travel? I would be the king of one particular area. So you build your brand up, and people only ever want to come to you because everyone else is just, generic. So does that make sense, Colm?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's niching and finding specializations are important, and
Excuse me.
you're right there.
Sorry. That I tried to press mute as I sneezed, and I pressed it off, which is ridiculous. So I apologize to everybody on the call. For thoughts on people who are in the audience who might want to come and join us on stage, please feel free to do so in this conversation, because I think it's fascinating about how to reinvent yourself when AI comes for your job. If you've got a story about who you are, where you are, and what you are doing to change, let me know. As you can tell, I'm trying not to sneeze. Save myself. There we go. Over to you, Jeff. So, reinvention. What would your advice be? Because you and I have reinvented ourselves several times in business. What would your thoughts be?
Well, just a couple of things from what you and Colin have been chatting about. I think the human element to this, the human touch, the human emotion, I think is just absolutely critical now, especially for a business like columns running with translation, which must have such a massive challenge at the moment. It's very exciting, and yet the reinvention is just, I can't emphasize it enough. Recognizing the priority, recognizing your client and their needs and wants is big. Staying as focused, get your focus razor sharp, and don't be afraid to take that leap of faith. I think, Dave, you're a real shining example of reinvention. In fact, perhaps that's a new title or an additional title. Dave Crane, the reinventor.
Oh, look at that. I used to be the life designer. So I'd already got my head
That's
around
right.
that concept. I'm not allowed any new shiny objects or names without passing it by my wife. Already got the favorite name.
The other thing I'd say really quickly, Dave, is just back to we were mentioning the music industry with Richard Branson. What he was so he felt let down by the industry because they refused to listen and they refused to hear the warning shots. They were dodging the massive bullet that was coming their way. And I think right now with AI, the conversation is deafening. There's so much information, and with this technology as well, just modern technology in general, people have the ability to make their own choice. And if the conversation is too deafening, they can just turn it off. So in terms of reinvention, it's a case of getting into that, whatever the conversation is that's relevant to you, the information that you need, the resources that you need. And that's why I say that focus needs to be razor sharp more than ever.
I think there's another element to it. I've mentioned it before on a previous show, so I'm going to share it with everybody who's on this podcast. I'm going to now have copyright of it, which I won't, and I'm going to stop anybody else using it, which I can't. But here's the thing: when you go to a supermarket and you've got your organic section where you know that everything in it is a lot more expensive, but the reason it's a lot more expensive is it's a lot more healthy for you. Or when you go to buy tuna and you've got the dolphin-friendly tuna that's got a little logo and it says that no dolphins are inside this tuna, or at least none that we know of, then I think what we're going to end up with is products that are human-driven. And it's going to say 100% human on it. And that means that when you deal with something like Colm, or you deal with something like Joanne, or yourself, Jeff, or me, or whoever it is, Aziza, you know that the person that you're working with may be using technology, but you will only be human-facing. So here's where I would say that would work infinitely, is imagine if you could call a bank and you didn't have to put in that ridiculous number, or if you put in that number, but then from that point on, you've got a human being to deal with. You don't have to deal with terrible AI that you can't understand them and it kicks you out and you've got to type it all in again. If you know you've got 100% bank, 100% human dealing with you when you contact that bank, then even if they're charging you more for the fees, at least you know you're dealing with a human being. I think that most industries will lean into that. There will be reasons when you don't want to sometimes, but there'll be times that you'll pay a premium because it's got a human at the beginning of it at least, and that's the one that you're going to be dealing with. So I think that as everybody reinvents themselves, you should reinvent your back end to be AI. I mean, like as in where your technology is, not your bottom. And I think that you should look to keep yourself, your face, your brand, your communication, good, bad, or ugly, customer facing, because that's what people are going to want more of. Because when, for instance, robo lawyer or robo doc takes over and everything gets automated and the systems everywhere, you still want to deal with an expert and you'll pay for that to happen, but you want an expert who can come up with really fast answers and not charge you ridiculous amounts necessarily for the process of signing a document. You want to know that if you've got all the heavy lifting done for a lawyer and you go, right, I know it's going to be X, Y, and Z, they turn around and say, well, actually, it's not going to be that. That's why you're hiring me to work with you. So I think everyone should start looking at those kind of elements. Thoughts on that? Throwing that to the entire team. We've got about 4 minutes left. I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well. And for everybody else, by the way, I have VIP mentoring. It is details of that and my other courses and programs are within the sections here on the post. And also I've got a work group you're all very welcome to join called Turbocharge Your Career, where the conversations will continue as always. Okay, back to our panel. What's your thoughts on that, about going human first on your branding?
Get that patented, Dave, and thumbs up all round. What do you think, team? I think having that human verified stamp, there's definitely, it's so needed. And I think you've got a new brand there, Dave.
But like lots of things, Jeff, and you know, because we've been friends for 30 years, everything I come up with, go, oh yeah, well, who cares? Great idea, we'll do it. In fact, you can verify this. I'm going to go back to the rest of the team in a minute. I brought all you can eat and drink to Dubai as a concept for bars and restaurants when we did the 100 Club 30 years ago. Now everybody does it, but do they give me a commission? No. Did they give me a free drink? No, not even a sandwich. So it's impossible to keep tabs on that. But I'm sharing it because I think it's a really important mindset thing that people need to have.
You know, having this conversation with Mr. Marley's cousin yesterday, he picked up a TV remote and he said, look, someone somewhere created this. It reminded me of the movie Cocktail with Tom Cruise. And they're having the conversation about, you know, the cocktail umbrella stick.
Yeah.
Someone somewhere in the world invented that and is just raking it in. So let's try and get this monetized for you, Dave.
Do you know who didn't rake it in? Professor Rubik. He didn't patent the
What?
cube.
Wow.
So he didn't make any money out of that. He only made money from Rubik's Revenge. So yes and no in lots of different elements. So bear that in mind, guys. I mean, I think it's almost impossible to copyright something and get it out there. But what I do think is when you do create something, they want to come back to the original gangster who created it. And therefore, don't give them everything. Just give them stuff that you're finished with. That's what tech used to be like in places like Japan. By the time it reached the rest of the world, Japan already had a better version of it. And right now, ChatGPT, I was just given this Chat 4.0, but going, wow, that's amazing. They've already got ChatGPT 7 already, but we won't get it until much later, probably when we're all dead. Audience and panel, thoughts on human stamping your stuff as a remedy to the AI? I'd love to know. To Colm and Joanne.
Yeah, Dave, you can hear me okay? Yeah, I can, great. I've just plugged myself into the laptop there. Well, not myself, the phone. I think we, as human beings, we always need an element of humanness. Look, we've evolved over thousands and thousands of years with human connection, and it's hardwired into us over generations and the whole of evolution. So it's definitely something, you know, that humanist, that human spirit, that intelligence. Like, we have so much intelligence that so many of us have not even tapped into. We are actually so powerful, more than we even realize. And I think that's a journey most of us are on as well. And I think stay ahead of the game. Like, AI is great in many ways, but it's a very powerful engine. And you know what they say, with great powers like that comes great responsibilities. So we have to stay on top of the game as well and keep reinventing ourselves. And look, we were wired to be able to evolve and adapt to new situations, new environments. So so her mentors were needed. Do the work on yourself, get unstuck. And just work and surround yourself with the right people and work with the right people that will help to get you there, and get a good night of sleep as well. That's all I'd say. Thanks, Dave.
You had to get the good night's sleep in there as well. I'm going to say something very quickly before we get Colm's opinion on this as well. I remember watching a documentary or reading about MMA, mixed martial arts. And there was a guy who had a massive backlash. I think it was a Chinese mixed martial artist. It might be China or Korea. It was or Thailand. It might have been. I'm not sure. But anyway, this guy was a mixed martial artist who learned all the Aikido and learned all boxing, karate, everything. And they brought him up on TV to take on the country's best fighter, who was a monk. So the monk was a kung fu expert. And this might be on YouTube, and I'd love to see if you can get the reference, drop it into the comments, into Kung Fu. So they brought this Kung Fu monk who was going to take on this mixed martial artist who was done all right for himself, was a very good fighter. So the monk, as usual, took his stance, and what he tried to do was catch the punches in his hands by reflex of the mixed martial artist. And needless to say, he lined up, he went ding ding, he stuck his hand out, the martial artist went bang, 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 got him on the ground, bang, 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 kicked 7 bells out of them on live TV. The entire nation hated the mixed martial artist for the lack of respect he showed to the monk and Kung Fu, which is our respected martial art. But the bottom line is, fighting had changed. Kung Fu might have been great if the rules were everyone does Kung Fu, but when you got mixed martial arts, even boxing on its own is no good. It ends up being jiu-jitsu, it ends up being lots of other stuff, Krav Maga, all sorts of stuff. And I think the lesson for that, and the reason for me bringing it up, is because you should now be looking at your industry and taking on some other things to add to it that makes you a fully rounded character, because you never know what's going to come at you. You should be able to turn around, and the answer should be yes, we can do it, because we do other stuff, or no, I'm not interested in that particular area. We have examined it, but it's not optimizing what we do best. I think that's a secret, but it's also a really powerful way to have a think about the way that you move forward. Colm, over to you for your thoughts on this before we close the group. I have to unmute. I did put you on mute because we get some noise off you earlier. Should be the button bottom right somewhere. If we can get you back on again before we close everything off. Aziza, do you want to make a comment on that while we're waiting for Colm? Oh, Colm's back. Go on, over to you, Colm.
Yeah, I agree with your comment.
That's as good as it gets. I agree with you. If only my wife would say that more often and just stop, that would be brilliant. I think got some technical challenges there. Not to worry. Yeah. Oh, go on, carry on again. Get you back.
Yeah, the comparison was combat. So we have to be aware of and inform ourselves of the capabilities available to us and where to apply them.
Sorry to interrupt your podcast, just a quick one. If you've watched what I've done for the last couple of years and thought to yourself, I wonder what Dave could do for me, now's your chance to find out. Whether it's growing your personal brand, speaking on stages around the world and getting paid while traveling for free, or maybe you want a podcast, or maybe you want to write a book, or creating followers and fans, or having retreats or an online course, or maybe starting your side hustle. Whatever it is, we can create something that's perfect for you, your own signature product. So what do? Well, very simply, all you need to do is register at this QR code or go to www.speakonstage.com/summervip/ and then register. Once confirmed, you get sent details of how we can book to work together. 2 sessions with a load of incredible content to raise your game. You will also be able to be incredible on LinkedIn, get over imposter syndrome, create messaging that your clients will love and buy into. You'll be able to create your personal brand and also become a guest on other people's podcasts and more. What more could you possibly want? Just me and you working together, having a ton of fun and getting you to where you need to be. The world is changing more rapidly than ever before, and I want you to be positioned as the best that you can be. So all you have to do is go to this, register, and then let's help you jump and grow wings on the way down. That's it. Back to the podcast. Definitely. We have to look at the way that customers approach us and the entire sales chain, sales process, sales funnel of what they're looking for, why they come to us, and what's the after sales, what's a process, what's a headache that we can fix. And that's something that we will do. We'll just be able to speed it up and be more efficient and even be a 1-man or 2-man maximum band I say man, it could be women, doesn't matter. It's a customer journey that's really important to work out. I think that's how the smart people are going to be successful. And I think if they do it properly, they'll replace their income by what they love to do and what they're very good at. And if they do it even better, they'll be able to employ people or at least take on more because they've got a niche where only they shine. And that will mean they'll do even better than they did before AI came along to send that tsunami into the offices and kick everybody out. I think that you're in a great position, Colm, to be able to do very, very successfully. We'd love you to join our WhatsApp group. The details are there in fact, that's an invitation that's open to everybody. And if you wanted to brainstorm what to do with your own organization, that's an open invitation to everybody. And have a look at our VIP mentoring too. Colm, great things ahead of you, definitely, from what I can see anyway.
Yeah, thanks very much for your encouragement. I found out about this event that you shared the link in, one that's run by Mark Jarrett, I think, and he is involved. So shout out to him and his virtual power networking groups.
Of course, Mark was in Dubai this week, and I was hoping to catch up with him, but he's been not well. So as soon as he said, I don't feel very well, I thought, well, you can keep it to yourself. We'll catch up next time you come to Dubai. But thank you for that. Aziza, we got you and Jeff to give your final thoughts on today. Would you like to add something to today's conversation? Anything that we missed out on that you want to add?
Sure. I think the conversation today was very interesting. I think how I see AI, like AI is here to stay and move forward. You have to embrace it or you'll be left behind. That's period. Nobody can change that. But the way I think that the introverts who are more comfortable behind the computer, behind the systems, they were the one who's going to shine when AI comes full force. And for the extroverts who are refusing to embrace AI and find out how AI can work alongside or use AI as a tool to upskill their brand and make themselves be seen and having humanized stuff, who just refuse to embrace AI, they're going to be left behind.
I agree with you, but I don't think it's an introvert versus extrovert issue. I think it's an authenticity issue. How comfortable are you in your own skin? Whether it's a loud skin or a quiet skin, how transparent is your skin? How transparent is your persona that people can see that's what they get when they pay for you?
Well, yes and no, because, for example, if let's say everyone knows you're the extrovert and I'm the introvert. Everybody knows that. But I'm more comfortable behind the scenes. But if I were to upgrade my brand and do everything, but you are refusing AI, you just go out and you just blank AI, and I'm going right. I'm embracing it. I'm doing it. I'm just putting, I don't have to be seen in person. Doesn't mean that I'm not helping you as a person. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. But it really depends. I mean, what we talked about specifically here is about customer facing, and I think that
I can be, but I can be customer facing behind the scene. I can be customer facing over a call. I can be customer facing over WhatsApp. It's not a problem. I don't have to be sitting in front of the customer to be customer facing.
I think that's what customer facing is. I'm not talking. I mean, in person and on camera is the bit that I think really makes a difference. But I do think that you. I mean, I've seen you do it. I know you're excellent at doing it. I think that we're reinventing our relationship with the market. And the conversation that we're having now, before it turns into a domestic between man and wife, has a lot of relevance because that's what really people should be looking at. What version of me is human, and what version of me wants to go out there and present myself to the audience? When people go on social media, if you scroll through LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever, you can soon become very sick thinking that everyone else is doing better than me. Why? Because they only post their best stuff. They never post them having a terrible day unless that's their thing to say, give me sympathy and love me and I'll buy my stuff. So I think what we have to work out is, again, the customer journey, again, our authenticity. I don't think being an introvert or an extrovert will be the deal maker here. Depends on the job you do and the customers and the clients that you work with. But it'll be a fascinating point that we can look at next time. Maybe the question for next session is, will introverts or extroverts be more successful when it comes to dealing with AI. I'd love to have a thought about that. I'd love to get everyone's thoughts on it too. Does that make sense to you, Aziza?
Yeah.
Perfect. Jeff, final thoughts of today then. Over to you, my friend, my brother from another mother.
I think language it will be crucial moving forward, embracing AI. So from that customer facing or not, as Aziza is sort of positioning yourself behind the scenes, but engaging with a customer, it's the language that you use that will lead to future success. And encouragement for those who are anxious and nervous about AI. I think that's really, really important. And I think those are my thoughts. What a great session.
Well, it's been a pleasure only because of the amazing people that we have on the call. We don't need to have millions, we just need the right ones. And everybody who's been here, whether you've been in the audience and watching everything that's going on and supporting, or being on stage and sharing your thoughts, I always appreciate you because you do an amazing job. I can't monologue for an hour. Well, I can, and I often do, but I don't want to. It's when we have discussions, it really proves that there's something special. And I think that what we have in this group in particular is we've got enough insights that would allow us all to be in a better position to deal with the challenges that are here already and are to come. If we just take back the things we looked at, being human facing, leaning into your 100% human brand, and also looking at the fact that being on your own but with AI allows you to look at the customer journey and add elements that can all be charged for with your clients. I think that's a great thing to take away in a business-driven world. That might mean that you lose your old job, but it means that you can turn around and do a lot more things with the same amount of time to be a lot more successful. So with that being said, it's time to close the group. We've got an extra 10 minutes because I had an argument with my wife. I'm sure it's not the last that we'll have.
It's not an argument. I can make it into an argument if you want me to.
Oh, goodness, no. I had a wonderful discussion with my wife that's been very colourful and of use to everybody. Is that the right way?
Perfect. Yes, we agree to disagree. That's the perfect way to do it.
No, I.
And this is where AI can be so useful.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
Because I know. I tell you why it won't work, because Dave's going there talking about how customer journey. Come sit down and have a discussion. No AI.
Have you seen the movie Her, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his phone and she only ever says nice things to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, on that bombshell. Here's the thing I will predict. I will predict that the big challenge we have, which is, I mentioned about dating apps earlier and Tinder, and people won't date and they won't meet each other. There will be a massive industry of people who marry their phones. That I predict. It's ridiculous, but it's going to happen. People are going to marry the personality, the girlfriend of the AI assistant that they have on their phone, and they won't bother seeking humans at all. Watch this space. That's another conversation.
I married an avatar. Wow.
We're not a million miles away from it now, but there we go. So I feel we should start another hour on that subject, but I'm not going. I've got a busy day ahead. Have an amazing weekend, guys. I'm going to be on stage on Sunday with the World Tech Summit. And also, I can announce the fact I'm going to be speaking at the Vatican in 2 weeks' time. I'm very excited about that, but we can have a conversation between now and then. I've got a chat with the decision makers on that tomorrow morning. Very exciting stuff. Whatever you're doing, I wish you all the very best. Feel free to reach out. We're here for you. And lots of love. And remember to jump and grow wings on the way down. On behalf of all the panel on stage, that's myself, Colm, Joanne, Ziza, and Jeff. Have the most amazing time, and we'll catch up with you same time on a Sunday in the future. But maybe it's a Friday. You have to keep watching to find out. Thank you. Goodbye.